The greatest existential threat humankind would ever face is climate change. The consequences of climate change are unimaginable. The entire world would be doomed and pickled in a few years from now on. Let the countdown begin. What will happen to us? What will the world look like after climate change? What you see right now is the world we live in. Look how beautiful our Mother Nature is. She protects us from the harmful rays of the sun and provides us with a safe haven to live in. Over time, the world has changed incredibly, benefiting mankind in many ways. We humans, through our deeds, have pushed our world to destruction. Soon enough, the home we live in will be no more. Now you can see the current status of our world. Look how miserable it is. If this is the case, what awaits us in the future? The rising global temperature is the beginning of the end of mankind. Several species disappeared from the earth and it went unnoticed for quite some years. The raging wildfires and collapse of crops got the attention of human beings, and now we know that we are in grave danger. The only way to save our world is by understanding the consequences of climate change and how we can contribute. Climate change will affect all the countries in the world. It's unavoidable if the deeds of human beings continue at this rate, but in some countries the consequences of climate change will be unbearable when compared to other countries. These countries have high chances to be exposed to climate change, and they are referred to as climate vulnerable countries. These countries do not even have a financial safety net to fall upon and no financial resources to recover from the after effects of climate change. The prominent reason for that is their dependence on the natural world. Their main source of income is connected to nature. Countries like the US would be affected in another way. The communities of color would be easily affected as the inequalities they suffer are interconnected with the impact of climate change. The low-income communities would also be at the forefront of people who will be most affected by drastic climate change. The weather system will be altered due to the rising global temperature. Floods and hurricanes will be unpredictable and will occur more often than you could predict. Extreme weather events will surpass the scale of tolerance. Certain areas will be facing drought, whereas others will be immersed in flood. 250 years ago, the industrial era began with great force and people were excited to set foot into the period of industrialization. But what went unnoticed is the increase in climate temperature. It increased by a little over a degree Celsius at the end of 2100. The planet will warm by 4 degrees Celsius. We'll be burned to death if this continues. In no time, the wrath of Mother Nature will be unleashed on our safe haven and it will turn into burning hell. The burning of fossil fuels should be addressed and a better solution to it should be found to put an end to the rising temperature and save ourselves from burns. The sudden change in the temperature would result in heat waves. Some houses will not stand climate change as it was not built with the increasing heat in mind. Weather-related facilities will hit all around the world. Even the coldest country in the world's weather will be altered. A massive quantity of water will evaporate, which could lead to drought. People will not get access to drinking water and it will even fight with each other to taste a drop of water. It'll affect nature, especially the forest, as it'll be prone to insect infestations. The drinking water supplies will be shrunk and people wouldn't even have food due to withering crops. Now, the earth is dried out in some places with excruciating heat and drought. The heat waves are kicking in and it could add fuel to the major problems. Vicious wildfires would spread due to the drier climate, putting a large number of people's lives under danger. Millions of homes will be burned to the ground. When we look at the data, we can clearly understand that the number of wildfires increased rapidly, especially in California. Apart from the heat waves, tropical cyclones would be another consequence of climate change. We do remember Hurricane Harvey, which is a result of climate change. Our ecosystem will be disturbed by climate change. The dramatic climate change will affect the food web. Larger animals will face trouble surviving. Could you guess which part of the world will be most affected by climate change? The heating up of the Arctic is widely discussed worldwide. People are worried about the melting glaciers. There will be no ice in the Arctic in 15 years if the heat increases in the coming years. The darker surface area of the Arctic will absorb more sunlight. This will be a disadvantage as there will be continued loss of ice covering the surface. The human-caused global warming will trap us. As we are responsible for this drastic climate change, we're the only ones who could have us. Another consequence of climate change is the rising sea level. People who live near the sea and those whose livelihoods are dependent on the sea will be put in a difficult situation. They will have to let go of their livelihood and possessions to save their life. By 2100, the sea level would cross 8 feet. The melting of ice and expansion of seawater would be the two mechanisms through which the sea level rises. This would affect the infrastructure and sewage system. Everything will be clogged and buildings will be destroyed. Do you have a favorite beach that you used to visit frequently? Well, in 10 years it wouldn't exist. Climate change could alter your life for no good. The coastal system will be eroded due to the encroaching seawater. What you see right now is what happened in Bangladesh when they faced an increase in seawater level. A major portion of the world will be flooded, people will lose their loved ones and their homes, waterborne diseases will kill more and more people, recovering from the after effects of the flood will be nearly impossible. The deadly flood in Pakistan is an example of how miserably it will affect the people. Humans are not the only people affected by climate change. The world is home to many and it includes all living creatures. The extinction of animals will take place. The North Atlantic right whale is an apt example of extraction. There will be frequent fights between animals and human beings over food and space. The animals will start coming to the cities as their homes will be destroyed. It will be the final straw for the safety of human beings as wild animals would feed on humans. When it comes to oceans, it absorbs a great amount of heat as it covers a large surface of the planet. Marine life will be the most affected as the food web will be altered and change in the temperature of water levels. This would affect the people on the land, especially farmers. The quality of the soil will be poor. Every act of human beings is related to one another. In the name of industrialization, we have dug our holes. Due to poor soil quality, farmers will not be able to cultivate crops. This will result in a food shortage that will lead to a famine later. Even European countries would have to face food shortages no matter how financially secure they are. The habitat of animals is destroyed and they will be exposed to climate change. Other causes affect the habitats of certain species. Climate change will be the nail in the coffin. When we look into the social dimensions, we can understand that climate change cannot be boxed in as an environmental crisis. It's much more than that. Due to inflation, there will be a difference in opinion which could lead to conflicts between people and between countries. Economic and geopolitical risks will be increased and world leaders will come together to address the issue. The low-income countries might even have to get support from other countries to survive. Wars and conflicts have to be prevented to not lead to a third world war. People will lose their jobs and will start doing odd jobs to survive the depleting economy. Mass migration will be triggered and people will start heading to places that have resources. A huge number of casualties and death will take place in the process. Social as well as political tensions will arise. There will be disparities among countries and regions. It's thought to imagine whether democracy will survive in this kind of crisis, as the whole world will be going through an emergency and a voting system cannot be executed. Do you think we could save the Earth? Would human beings come together to tackle climate change? Let us know in the comments. If you love such topics, click on the link on your screen to watch our next video to figure out how much damage is actually because of climate change.